I was about 12, 13 at the time. 6 or 7 of us decided to go on a late night bike ride, which was okay. My parents, as long as they knew where I was going, who I was with, they were fine with it. But we were supposed to be going to the lake. We ended up taking a detour to Fairview Cemetery. Which is only about half a mile away from the lake, give or take. And, when I was a kid, I used to watch scary movies with my dad, like the old Jason Voorhees, the old Freddy Krueger movies. It was great. But there was one thing he always told me never to do, and that was mess with the Ouija board. Never ever touch it, never even look at it, stay away from it. If you don't want to get freaked out, stay away from the thing. We all go out to the cemetery, and we ended up in the older portion. I want to say it's like the more north side of it. Like when you first pull in there, it's like a wooded area that opens up into a clearing. And the very first thing is like old war veterans, like my great grandfather is buried there. And then you get into the newer plot. It's sectioned off into 4 different areas. So you have the new plot, and then the additional add-on for the new plot. Then you can turn right. When you turn right, you'll come up to the T, and the left will be like the not as new and maybe some older ones. But if you go far left, it'll take you all the way to the back, pretty much when Fairview had started. From the first burials there up until, I want to say one of the headstones in there was like 1918. Yeah, it's fairly old. And they ended up on a solid concrete crypt. One of my friends pulled the Ouija board out of his backpack. It was my buddy Brandon. He watched something on TV and thought it was a hoax, honestly. Ethan was the other guy that was there. I thought he was the one messing with me. But he got all hyped up about it and, wanted to show off for the girls that we had there. And yeah, it was Brandon's idea to start with. And then it was Brianna's mom was a Wiccan or something like that. So she had the board and told them about the salt and everything like that, which they neglected to tell me. I was always a guinea pig as a kid. After hearing what my dad had told me, I backed away from everything instantly. I walked away. I didn't want a part of it. But what my dad neglected to tell me is even if you don't want to play, you still have to stay inside the salt circle to keep that level of protection on yourself so that nothing can attach to you. So they made their little circle, and they all lit candles and were sitting around there, giving each other a hard time, laughing, carrying on. And I was maybe 10 feet away with my back up against a tree, wanting no part of it. They started doing their little thing. They were getting scared or whatnot. And I started feeling a strange burning sensation in my back. And I, tried to reposition myself a couple times, thinking that it's just because I'm leaning up against this tree. That's the only reason why it's getting hot. And then it started getting worse. It started getting hotter. And one point it felt like somebody was taking a hot knife and just ripping it across my back. At that point, I freaked out. Started walking towards my group of friends, and I felt a push. It was both shoulder blades. Somebody was pushing me straight to the ground, and I fell, hit the ground, got up, and I yelled at my buddy Ethan, quit messing around. It's not funny. This isn't cool anymore. And Ethan looked, and he had never left the circle with a group of everybody. So I got terrified, to say the least. Ran to my bike, jumped on my bike, and left everybody in the dust. I ran as fast as I could. I pedaled as hard as I could, get as far away from there as possible. Thinking that if I put distance between myself and whatever happened there, that's where it would stay. And that happened, it was a weekend night on a Saturday. I rode all the way back home. I as fast as I could, a beeline straight to my house. And I get home, use my key to get in the house, and let my dad and my parents know that I got home safe. I go right to bed, still freaked out, but trying to, nothing's happened, it's going to be okay. And it was the next night after that, as I was laying in bed around 3, 4 in the morning, I saw this creature thing hunched over behind my bedroom door. Eyes sticking out. You can see like the upper portion pretty much from his rib line to the top of its head. I want to say maybe only 2.5, 3 feet high. It wasn't very big, but the glowing yellow eyes is what really sticks with me. I woke up screaming, terrified after seeing this thing, thinking it was a dream. Both parents come running into the house, or into my room, trying to figure out what's going on. They get me calmed down, was able to go back to bed, woke up, did my normal daily thing. During the summertime, we didn't have school. But the next night, it was around 3 in the morning. I had waken up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat. I could have swore something was watching me, like something was right there. And the way my bedroom was set up is my headboard was on the far side of the room. The bedroom door was across the way, and it looked like something was crouched behind my bedroom door, peeking at me with glowing yellow eyes. I screamed. My dad came running in, followed by my mom, trying to figure out what was going on, why it was going on. I just kept telling him there's something in here watching me. When I'd go back, or when they finally get me called down and I'd go back to sleep, I wouldn't see it again. But this happened a few times that week. At least every other day I was seeing this thing crouched down with the glowing yellow eyes in the room. Terrified me as a kid. It still freaks me out to this day. When I finally explained to my dad what had happened, it was, the next night, or the night after, it would have been Monday night. It didn't happen. Tuesday night, it happened again. Same thing, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Weird little creature thing with the glowing yellow eyes sitting in my bedroom. Again, screaming for my parents. Finally get me calmed down and go back to bed. Wednesday night, nothing happened. Thursday night, it happened again. And it was just me and my dad home. He comes running in there. And I was crying. And finally I explained to my dad what had happened, what I was seeing across there. And, he turned, he looked, made sure there wasn't anything there. Then he looked at my back, because I told him about the burning sensation from leaning up on the tree. And there was about 6 or 7 pairs of 3 scratch marks that went, with each other, ranging from 2.5 inches in length, from 5 to 6. all over my back. That's what scared my dad. I don't think I've seen that man turn pale ever in my life until he saw that. That following Sunday, we went to the local Catholic church, and the preacher in there had said quite a few prayers. I'm not sure if he was doing like an exorcism or a cleansing. I was too young to really understand what he was trying to do. I do remember I got sprinkled with holy water, and then upon coming back to the house, my dad and I did laps through the whole house with burning sage to try and cleanse the house of whatever had followed me home from the cemetery. And after that night, it felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. And when I went to bed that night, I no longer saw whatever the little creature or entity or whatever it was sitting in the room. It scarred me for a very long time. I didn't talk to my friends anymore. Went off and did my own thing. It scared the life out of me, for lack of better words. And it lasted a solid week. Well, like, I have no idea what this thing is. It looked like Schmeagol, kind of hunched over and all, like, really thin, but the glowing yellow eyes, I can still see those eyes to this day. It's like one of those things that, okay, growing up watching Steve Irwin, they shine the light on the alligators. Okay, that's an alligator. Or mountain lions out in or the mountains or wherever you're at. But I have never in my life seen anything like that. That happened, I want to say 15, 16 years ago. And it's still scary to this day. Yeah, it wasn't until I got older when my dad explained to me that the 3 pairs of scratch marks were an insult to the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. It was pretty much mocking the Holy Trinity at that point. And I don't want to say it was like a little demon there, but then again, I really don't know. It looked weird. It had glowing yellow eyes, and it terrified me. And I'm still not really a fan of talking about it too much now. I've never seen it again. I've been back to the cemetery, during the daylight, and never really had that something was trying to either pull me in or watching me from behind us somewhere. Everything went back to normal after that. Because, like, knowing what I know now, it was probably like a little demon or like an imp or something like that. Not very big, at least from what I could see. Scrawny, wiry looking thing, big head with glowing eyes. I always knew there was something out there that we couldn't explain, and I've been overseas. I've seen like man do terrible things to man. But when you get into the supernatural and just from the Asian culture, how they view everything versus how we antagonize it with the ghost hunter shows and stuff like that, it's always really fascinated with, me. But yeah, I'd rather stand in the middle of a firefight than be haunted by half the things that are out there. I'd want to say that my clairvoyance or third eye is still around, few and far between, versus when I was a kid where it just happened, and being a kid is innocent. But being the father of 2 kids, I've realized that I've also passed it on to my children. My daughter at 3 years old is yelling at a ghost, actually in the house just up the road here. There was a ghost, and she thought it was being mean to my wife. She yelled at it to go away and leave my wife alone, and that was the only thing that happened. Having your daughter, I mean, she was blunt, straight to the point. Got rid of it. Have no idea what it was. my dad came all the way down from Buena Vista, which is a half-hour drive from here, and did the whole cleansing the house with burning sage and everything, just to be sure. But now I have to try and explain this to my children. And, it's not all scary. There's a lot of cool things that can happen. My grandmother passed away 8 years ago. And I can go over to my grandfather's house. And if I stay the night there, I can go and drink coffee with my grandma in the middle of the night and have a conversation with her. Because she never really left. She's there protecting the house, protecting my grandfather, and making sure every great-grandkid that runs around that property is safe. Like, she, from the grave. There's been a few times that she'd make plain black coffee with those, like, oatmeal icing cookies. And she'd pull the little sleeve out, take her 2 or 3 cookies, and set them on the counter right next to her coffee cup. And that's what that was her routine. Every morning, little cookies, coffee. And, my grandfather still, you know how many times I have to put these cookies away? Just eat the cookies, Grandpa. It's okay. They were married for, 40, 50 years before she got cancer. And I was actually on my way overseas when it happened. And I wasn't able to come back for the funeral. So it was actually, it's nice to know that Grandma's still there. And I still got the opportunity to apologize for, not being able to be there. So it really helped with the closure, at least for me. And then all the holidays when the family gets together, her ashes are actually in the living room. And nobody likes to admit it, especially my grandfather and my uncle. But we all go in there and we talk to Grandma. She's still there. Let her know that everybody's okay, everybody's healthy, everything's going on is cool. But she's in a better place. She's no longer in pain. But we all know that she's still watching, no matter what. Every year, my grandfather and I would go in remembrance to the past Elks members of the Elks Club here in town. And the week before Memorial Day, we'd go out there and put flags on the past members that have passed away. I want to say I started going with my grandfather to that when I was like 6 or 7 years old. Old enough that I could read a map to figure out where all the headstones are and everything like that and put the flags down for the Elks members. And we were just past the mid-tier section, starting to get into the older but newer portion of it. And he was like a little boy with a bowl cut. I want to say he had a blue shirt or something like that, like peeking out from behind a tree. And I had asked my grandfather if I could go play with the kid. He said, I'm not thinking of it, thinking that there's other families out here. Go play with, the kid. It's no big deal. Took my bundle of flags and everything like that and let me go play. And I could never get very close to the kid, but it's like he was trying to lead me into a direction. And after, so long of being far away and my grandfather not being able to see me, he'd yell and turn around and make a beeline just straight to Grandpa so I didn't get in trouble. And it went on for 4 or 5 years. We had just finished up in this old section and we're moving into the middle tier. And I could see the boy still, peeking behind the trees or whatever. And I asked my grandfather if I could go play again. So we go out and I'm following him. And finally I end up in the middle section right off the road. He was 7 rows in. And he was like the 15th headstone. and I think they call it like K section on the map of the cemetery. Yeah, 7 rows in, he was the 15th headstone. The little white headstone had the lamb on top of it. And after that, I hadn't seen the little boy anymore. I guess I finally won hide and seek.